everyone, welcome back to another stream. Hope आप अच्छे होंगे, आपका वीकेंड बहुत अच्छा जा रहा होगा। आज फिर हम बजट ऐप पे काम करेंगे and we'll look into mostly finalizing it. So I hope you're doing well and yes, welcome to another stream. बताइए चैट में कि आप कैसे हैं and how is your weekend going?
This should fade away actually, लेकिन ये fade away नहीं होता, it just poof stops. So how have you people been? I'm not sure कि हमने last week कोई stream की थी या नहीं की थी. Most likely we did not. I think we did not. लेकिन शायद उससे पिछले वीक हमने की थी और हमने बजट ऐप पे काम किया था. We also talked about some announcements. I'm not sure कि आप में से कितने लोगों ने वो अनाउंसमेंट सुनी है या नहीं सुनी, बट मोस्ट लाइकली नहीं सुनी होंगी, तो मैं दोबारा से वो चीज़ें दोबारा से शेयर कर देता हूँ. इमरान अली, हाय एहसन भाई, हाय टू यू टू इमरान, क्या हाल है? तो अ कपल ऑफ अनाउंसमेंट्स. एक तो ये कि आप लोगों को पता होगा कि मैं पिछले तकरीबन 2 वीक्स डिफरेंट कंट्रीज़ में था और वहाँ पे डिफरेंट कॉन्फ्रेंसेस अटेंड किए मैंने, जिसका मतलब ये है कि देयर विल बी सम इंटरेस्टिंग कंटेंट कमिंग इन और उनमें बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ें हैं. उसमें बहुत सारी चीज़ें फायरबेस से रिलेटेड हैं, बहुत सारी चीज़ें एंगुलर से रिलेटेड हैं, कुछ रिएक्ट और नेक्स्ट ईयर से रिलेटेड भी हैं. तो इट्स गोइंग टू बी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग ऑन व्हाट्स कमिंग नेक्स्ट एंड आई एम सुपर सुपर एक्साइटेड अबाउट इट. वेब पूछ रहे हैं, हाउ आर यू? मस्ट मर्न सीरीज लाओ ना, लाइक योर नोट वाला. आई कुड एक्चुअली, आई कुड डू दैट, लेकिन आई हैव सम थिंग्स ऑन माई प्लेट. तो इट्स क्वाइट पॉसिबल कि हम मर्न एज इन एक्सप्रेस नोट जेएस ना कर रहे हो, बट वी मे डू समथिंग विद नेक्स्ट जेएस. तो स्टे ट्यून्ड, इट वुड बी ऑसम देखना कि कहाँ जाती है ये चीज़, बट वुड बी सुपर सुपर कूल. एहसन भाई, कोई कोडिंग कंपटीशन करवा लें मर्न पे. करवाया जा सकता है, वी कुड डू इट. अच्छा आइडिया है. हाउ अबाउट वी डू इट इन दिसंबर, और मैं इसका नोट बना लेता हूँ. तो क्या ख्याल है, दिसंबर में हो जाए मर्न स्टैक या मर्न कोडिंग चैलेंज? ओके, ऑसम, सुपर कूल. एहसन भाई, कोई कोड कंपटीशन? पढ़ लिया ये मैसेज मैंने. शाहिद रज़ा, हेलो सर. हेलो टू यू टू शाहिद, क्या हाल है? लेट मी टेक अ नोट ऑफ इट. मर्न कोडिंग चैलेंज दिसंबर. गुड हो गया, ज़बरदस्त. लुकिंग गुड टुडे एहसन भाई, मे बी ड्यू टू वीकेंड. कुड बी, बट आई बिलीव मैं ब्लैक में थोड़ा ज़्यादा अच्छा लगता हूँ, थोड़ा ज़्यादा निखर के आता हूँ, तो इट कुड बी दैट. ऑफ कोर्स आप एंगुलर का लोगो देख रहे हो, तो दैट इज़, यू नो, इट मेक्स एवरीथिंग रियली गुड. सो एब्सोल्युटली इट्स एंगुलर. भाई मैंने जावास्क्रिप्ट देखनी है, बहुत सारे मैसेजेस आ रहे हैं, तो लेट मी स्विच टू द स्क्रीन ओनली मोड. तो सबसे पहली चीज़ तो ये कि इवन बिफोर हम बहुत सारी चिट चैट के अंदर जाएं, इफ़ यू डोंट नो ऑलरेडी, कोड विद एहसन का अब एक न्यू चैनल है जो कि उर्दू में है. ये और हम वहाँ पे भी लाइव हैं. हम कोशिश ये करेंगे कि हम स्पेसिफिक वीडियोस जो उर्दू में होंगी या हिंदी में होंगी वो हम इस चैनल पे पोस्ट करेंगे एंड इट वुड बी सुपर सुपर कूल. तो इफ़ यू हैव नॉट सब्सक्राइब टू इट, आप जाएं और उस पर क्विकली सब्सक्राइब करें. आई एम गोना पुट दिस इन द चैट एंड येस, लेट्स मेक श्योर कि ये चैनल जो उर्दू का चैनल है, क्योंकि इस पर मैं बहुत ज़्यादा फोकस करूँगा इंशाल्लाह, तो आई रियली वांट एवरीबडी सपोर्ट, चाहे वो सब्सक्रिप्शन पे हो, चाहे वो वीडियो शेयर करने पे हो. तो प्लीज़ गो अहेड एंड सब्सक्राइब दोस्त. असद फयाज जो कह रहे हैं कि मैंने जावास्क्रिप्ट स्टार्ट करनी है, आप स्टार्ट करने के लिए ये कर सकते हो कि आप सबसे पहले जो है वो थोड़ी सी HTML CSS के साथ जावास्क्रिप्ट स्टार्ट करो. तो there's a course called Web Development Bootcamp. It is one of the best courses जो मैंने अभी तक बनाए हैं, या बूट कैम्प जो मैंने अभी तक रन किया है. मैं इसको चैट के अंदर शेयर कर रहा हूँ. और इसके अंदर मल्टीपल चैप्टर्स हैं। इसके अंदर बेसिकली आप फिग्मा डिज़ाइन से HTML CSS बनाते हो, यानी कि आप डिज़ाइन टू एक्चुअल वर्किंग वेब एप्लीकेशन बनाते हो और उसको फाइनली आप डिप्लॉय कर देते हो, ठीक है, जो कि कुछ इस तरीके की दिखेगी। तो इट्स अ वर्किंग वेबसाइट, इट्स मोबाइल फ्रेंडली, आप इसको मोबाइल पे इस्तेमाल कर सकते हो जस्ट लाइक दिस। मैं अगर इसको आईफोन पे ले जाऊँ तो इट लुक्स समथिंग लाइक दिस ऑन मोबाइल। तो एज़ यू कैन सी ये परफेक्टली रिस्पॉन्सिव है, इसका एक डिफरेंट मेन्यू भी है, तो इट्स रियली कूल, आप यहाँ से स्टार्ट ले लो। अच्छा, लुकिंग गुड टुडे ये पढ़ चुका हूँ मैं, मुझे अभी बेसिक भी नहीं आती असद फयाज, तो आप यहाँ से स्टार्ट करो। आई थिंक ये बिल्कुल HTML बेसिक से स्टार्ट करता है, तो आई थिंक दिस विल बी वेरी हेल्पफुल फॉर यू। शायद कह रहे हैं अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, वेरी गुड। एनजिंग्स और डिप्लॉयमेंट से रिलेटेड कंटेंट बनाएं, लिख लेता हूँ मैं इसको भी। Nginx, Nginx and deployment. I have a very good friend named Sebastian Ball, जो कि DevOps में है और उसको बहुत ज़्यादा एक्सपीरियंस है with Nginx or deployment or DevOps or infrastructure. So I may ask him actually if he can join and then give a session. So good point. I'll probably actually go ahead and message him right now and see what he thinks about it. Several people are asking about an Nginx plus deployment session. Awesome. Let's see what he says. Imran Ali keh rahe hain, okay, the idea is you should think about an app and then you tell people in a certain time, then ask to submit somewhere in the limited time. Imran Ali. We could do it. हमें ये देखना होगा कि हम उसको किस तरीके से ऑप्टिमाइज़ कर सकते हैं कि उसको वैलिडेट करना आसान हो, या उसको रिव्यू करना आसान हो। तो आई एम गोना थिंक अबाउट इट। लूप्स फंक्शन एरे कहाँ से लर्न करूँ? मैंने W3 से सीखी बट मुझे मुश्किल आ रही है। तो व्हाट यू कैन डू, आप youtube.com/CodeWithAhsan पे जाओ और यहाँ पे वी हैव अ जावास्क्रिप्ट बिगिनर सीरीज़, या शायद ये यहाँ कोर्सेज पे भी है। यस, जावास्क्रिप्ट बिगिनर सीरीज़। तो आप यहाँ से जाओ और यहाँ पे वेरिएबल्स, कंडीशनल, लूप्स, एरे, स्ट्रिंग, ऑब्जेक्ट्स, ये सारी चीज़ें यहाँ पे एक्सप्लेन्ड हैं। यू कैन गो थ्रू दोज। ये बेसिकली आपको 1 by 1 वीडियोस पे लेके जाएगी एंड देन यू कैन फॉलो अलॉन्ग दोज वीडियोस एंड जस्ट मार्क देम कंप्लीटेड, ताकि आपको याद रहे कि अच्छा मैंने ये चीज़ें कर ली हैं, एंड देन प्रोसीड फॉरवर्ड। तो दैट वुड बी माई सजेशन। तो लेट मी ऑल्सो गिव द लिंक इन द चैट फॉर दिस वन। जो भी इस स्ट्रीम को फेसबुक पे देख रहे हैं, प्लीज़ गिव इट अ लाइक एंड ऑन अदर चैनल्स एज वेल before we actually jump to the budget app. अच्छा, better buy a React Hoodie 2. I did not buy it. That's the fun part. क्योंकि मैं Angular GDE हूँ या मैं Google Developers Expert हूँ. I did not actually have to buy it. तो if you see there's an Angular logo here, and if you also see यहाँ पे there's an Experts logo here. तो I'm a Google Developers Expert. तो ये हमें swag में free में मिला है. I don't think I have really गुड सिचुएशन विद रिएक्ट अभी, या मैं रिएक्ट में कोई इतना ज़्यादा प्रोमिनेंट नहीं हूँ, या रिएक्ट या फेसबुक कम्युनिटी के साथ इतना ज़्यादा मैं इन्वॉल्व नहीं हूँ। आई डोंट थिंक कि कभी मैंने कोई इस तरह की टी शर्ट्स या स्वैग बाय किया होगा। तो अनलेस यू वांट टू गिव इट टू मी एज अ गिफ्ट वकास, आई डोंट थिंक आई एम गोना हैव इट, बट येस, ऑसम। तो आई थिंक वी आर रियली गुड विद द स्टार्ट। छोटी मोटी और चीज़ें जो मुझे बतानी थी वो ये कि पहली चीज़ जो अनाउंसमेंट की थी वो ये कि वी हैव अ उर्दू चैनल नाउ, तो कोड विद एहसन उर्दू के नाम से यू कैन गो एंड सब्सक्राइब। दूसरी जो अनाउंसमेंट मैंने की थी वो लास्ट स्ट्रीम में भी थी, और वो ये कि आई एम स्विचिंग जॉब्स। तो आई एम जॉइनिंग अ प्लेस कॉल्ड salt.study. लेट मी ब्रिंग इट ऑन द फ्रंट टू यू। तो ये एक बूट कैंप कंपनी है जो कि स्टॉकहोम में, जहाँ मैं रहता हूँ, और इसके अंदर डिफरेंट ट्रैक्स हैं जो कि बूट कैंप्स हैं या कोर्सेज हैं पर से। तो इसमें जो जावास्क्रिप्ट का ट्रैक है, आई विल बी जॉइनिंग दैट एज अ लीड जावास्क्रिप्ट इंस्ट्रक्टर, जिसका मतलब ये है कि मैं अपनी फुल टाइम जॉब पे भी आई विल बी क्रिएटिंग अ लॉट ऑफ कंटेंट, आई विल बी क्रिएटिंग अ लॉट ऑफ कोर्सेज, विच ऑल्सो मीन्स के आफ्टर वर्क आवर्स या ऑन द वीकेंड वी वुड ऑल्सो हैव अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स टू लर्न। तो दिस इज़ वेरी गुड फॉर मी बिकॉज This is what I'm excited about. This is also what I'm passionate about. That is creating content. तो it's going to be fun. तो ये एक नई चीज़ थी जो मुझे आपके साथ शेयर करनी थी. तो हैविंग सेड दैट, बहुत सारी बातें हो गई. क्या अब हम अपनी बजट ऐप को देख लें और बजट ऐप पे स्टार्ट करें? आर वी ऑल गुड? और मुझे इन द मीन टाइम ये भी बताइए कि हैव यू पार्टिसिपेटेड इन द हैक्टोबर फेस्ट, और क्या आपकी 4 में से 4 पीआरस हो चुकी हैं? हैव यू पार्टिसिपेटेड इन द हैक्टोबर फेस्ट येट, एंड हैव यू गॉट योर पीआरस एक्सेप्टेड? Not participating, view on GitHub. अच्छा, ये अभी तक इन्होंने सपोर्ट द ईयर फील्ड, ये इसने अभी तक एक्सेप्ट नहीं किया है. Who was the guy? Loyalties. Let me ping him ताकि I think he might have missed it. Who accepted my last PR? Closed. Mad Storm, yes. There we go. सही है. Awesome. तो ऐसा Umarji says कि mine 4 are accepted. Awesome. Congratulations. Just now waiting for the swag. ताकि हमारे पास जल्द से जल्द हैक्टोबर फेस्ट की भी शर्ट्स आ जाएं. That's a fun part of all these activities कि आपको swag बहुत easily मिल जाता है. I also remember कि from Firebase, I think maybe I have them in my pocket. तो Firebase हो गया, या जो अभी NG पोलैंड में मैं गया था, I actually got a lot of stickers and swags here as well. Let me actually see. अच्छा, इसमें बहुत सारे तो जस्ट टिकट्स हैं जो कि मैंने पोलैंड में ख़रीदे थे, बसेस वगैरह के. तो आई रिमेंबर ये हैं. माई ऑल 8 PRs आर एक्सेप्टेड. लॉल. तैयब फैसल, कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशन यार, ज़बरदस्त, वेरी गुड. This is what I got from Angular Poland. So a lot of Angular stickers. If you want some stickers जो Angular के हों या whatever you see, remind me, क्योंकि most likely जब मैं पाकिस्तान आ रहा हूँगा तो I will be bringing these. ये RxJS का है. I got a couple of RxJS tickets. मेरे ख्याल से इसमें जो black वाला है, I'll probably have this one on my laptop. लेकिन I have more as well. For example, this one. This is also really nice. ये मेरे ख्याल से इनका original logo था. So I've got some Angular, some RxJS, actually a lot of RxJS. I have a lot of RxJS tickets or stickers. Yay! तो कॉन्फ्रेंसेस का एक फ़ायदा ये होता है, एक और चीज़ अभी होपफुली अनाउंस हो जाएगी. देयर इज़ ऑल्सो अ कॉन्फ्रेंस हैपनिंग इन कराची अबाउट एंगुलर. आई बिलीव उसकी अनाउंसमेंट बहुत जल्दी हो जाएगी. बट what I'll do is कि as soon as announcement होती है, I'll also share on my Facebook page, तो आप लोगों को आइडिया रहेगा कि अच्छा कब ये काम होने वाला है. Awesome. तो having said that, let's go into the code और हम start करते हैं अपनी budget app और let's try to finish it today. तो give me one quick second to bring this up. अच्छा, जो budget app हम बना रहे थे, we were creating this in English, so I'm going to be speaking in English just so that I can compile all of that later and then convert that into a video. So I hope that's okay with every one of you. So let me quickly go to my budget app, close all these things that I don't really need now. Dun. And there we go. So we go screen only, date functions, solid, let's keep it there. Gonna remove these guys, remove this, and remove this. All right, so let's open this with live, oops, control shift P, live server, open with live server. शेख मोहम्मद शहबाज कर रहे हैं स्टिकर्स, ये दादा मैं सी प्लस प्लस सीख रहा हूँ, कोई टिप्स वगैरह दे दो और क्या क्या मुश्किलात आ सकती हैं सीखने में, थोड़ी गाइड कर दो प्लीज। सुफियान, बग़ैर ये सोचे, जो टिप मैं आपको दे सकता हूँ वो ये है कि बग़ैर ये सोचे कि क्या क्या मुश्किलात आ सकती हैं, कुछ भी हो सकता है, सीधा सीधा स्टार्ट कर दो और टेक इट स्लो, और इतनी ज़्यादा टेंशन लेने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, कोई इतने बहुत मुश्किलात नहीं आएंगी। तो डू वन ट्यूटोरियल एट अ टाइम। एक दिन में 50 घंटे तो खैर होते भी नहीं है, लेकिन एक दिन में 8 घंटे बैठने से बेहतर है कि आप हर रोज़ 1 से 2 घंटे बैठो एंड देन ट्राई टू सॉल्व वन वन प्रॉब्लम, ट्राई टू गो विद वन ट्यूटोरियल, दैट शुड पोटेंशियली हेल्प। ऑसम। तो ये वो एप्लीकेशन है जो हम बना रहे थे। एज यू कैन सी कि हर चीज़ बहुत यहाँ पे छोटी है, बट वी विल फिक्स इट एनीवेज। अच्छा, लास्ट जो हमने काम किया था, वी आर गोइंग टू स्टार्ट फ्रॉम देयर, सो आई एम गोना नाउ स्विच टू इंग्लिश सो आई कैन work on the tutorial itself. One thing that I do want to do is, let me see if I can quickly fix it. So in this we should have stream language is set to Hindi here. I'm gonna do it in English. What is rerun? Ah, okay, that's fine. All right, there we go. So far what we've done is we have this budgeting app, and we need to make it better, of course, but essentially what this does is that you can add transaction. For example, I could say test, I could say credit loans, I could put an amount here. If I don't, it will give me a validation error. But if I put $120, then I can add it, and as you can see that it adds it here. Right now you will also notice that if I refresh, I have 5,000 in my Google Pay and 2,000 in my Apple Pay. So if I select either of those, so when I refresh this page, you can see by default Apple Pay is selected. So if I select Google Pay, and if I refresh, you can see that Apple Pay is selected by the default browser. So what happens right now is if I add some amount to this this here, for example, if I say something like it's a new transaction, let's say I went for groceries, and then if I go and say credit cards and loans, and then I do something like this 120, which means that now this is going to be added to this wallet because it's a positive transaction. Now what we really need to understand here is that how do we say that this was a negative or a positive transaction, right? So how do we go about that? We could either put a credit or debit in this case. So we could know, okay, this was credited from the account or it was added to the account. That's one thing. Or we could just say if it was a negative value. But the problem with that is the user does not know that there's a possibility of adding a negative value here, right? So instead of that, let's give the user an intuitive UI in which we already set it to debit. So it is taken off of the account and it's a negative value. And then the user can set credit as well in that case. So debit means we are deducting from the bank account or these wallets, and credit means we are adding to that. That's the usual financial terms that we use. Ali Mujahid, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Basim Hussain, hey, good to see you here. So what we are going to do now is in the UI, you will notice that we have this form where we have this select option. So I'm going to add a new option and I'm going to call this transaction type L. And then we are going to name this transaction, or we could just say type instead of transaction type. Why I'm not using transaction type is because this is already a transaction form, so it's redundant. Just like we don't have transaction category, transaction amount, similarly we shouldn't have transaction type. So but in the ID I would obviously mention it, but the name of the form should just be type, and this should be required. And by default the value of this should be, or actually we could remove type and we can have two values. We could have credit or actually debit, which is the first one, and then we are going to have the second one as credit. So I'm going to copy this, paste this here, and then credit. And now I'm going to make this credit as well. Now if I refresh this, you will notice that on the view now we do have choose, and then we have this debit and credit, right? So what I do want to do is to have some sort of labels for all of these, like title, then we have this. So why don't I distribute this into two things? So we could have something like a div, and then this could have the select but also a label, and the label would show first this is a category, so it shows like this. So category choose, and then we also have the similar thing here. So I'm gonna make a div here, and then inside the div I'm going to paste this guy, the select box, and then I'm gonna go and add a label. This label is going to be the transaction type, right? So now you can see title, category, type, and that's pretty much it. Now I'm not styling this. You will see that we are not really going into a lot of HTML and CSS. We are focusing on entirely the JavaScript part of it. Once we are done, we are going to modify the UI, and that's for the end. But we need to make it functional for now. Sudarshan Sharma, hey, how's it going? So now I can by default select debit, right? Now I need to understand what's happening with these values. So when I add a value like test, and then I say restaurants and cafe, and then the rest of them. One more thing I could do actually is to remove this option completely and do it like this. But then if I refresh now, you can see by default the value selected is the first one. So we don't really need this option value because since this is required, there's no point in giving the opportunity to select nothing, right? It doesn't make sense. First you're saying, hey, I want to make this required, then you are giving the user the option to select the empty value, so it doesn't make sense. So by default we are not providing any empty opportunities. So now all I need to do is just give it a title, test 120, and then hit add. Now this is okay because here you can see that it got added to our Apple Pay. But if I want to do credit, and if I do test again or test 2, and then I say 120 again, so this should actually be minus because we are saying credit. But if I hit add, what would happen? You see that it's actually adding to the value, which is not really good because this is not what we really wanted. So essentially, we have to check if it was credit or debit before we add it to the wallet. So if I go back to my JavaScript here, this is all we have. We have about 266 lines of JavaScript right here. We could have distributed into different files, but I've kept it very simple. So in this case, what we have is in the process of adding. So let's see, we have add event listener. So when we submit the form, we go ahead and we create a transaction, as you can see here, right? Before the transaction, we get the title, amount, and the category, but we should also be getting the type. So we get the type and we name it the type. Now you will notice one thing actually. I'm using elements type, category, amount, title. All of these are actually the names of these input, and this is a web form API. So the browser basically provides this API where you could get all the inputs by their names using the elements property. So what I'm doing is I'm checking the event.target.elements, and inside here I'm getting all of these values out from the elements array or from the elements object, and then we are actually checking it out, right? I'm going to answer you, Saira, in just a minute. So once we got the type, we also need to pass the type inside here, right? So we got two types, credit or debit, and we get, when we create a transaction, we need to pass this type inside this transaction. So when I go to the create transaction method, you will notice that we are not using the type here. So let's add that as well. So we are adding the type here. Now the amount that we have, sorry. Now the amount that we have here, we are going to identify if it should be negative or positive by actually putting this inside. So if I go ahead and if I go and say, for example, for the new transaction, we are also going to pass the type inside. So if I go to the transaction constructor, since this is an object-oriented programming application, we also are using classes and constructors and whatnot. So if I go here and pass also the type, now when I'm setting the amount, I can actually see the type and see if it's credit or debit, and then I can negate it or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the type here as well. So the transaction should also have a type property, which we could later maybe check out. So I'm going to check the type here, and I'm going to say this dot type equals to type. Whatever we are passing from there, we are going to retrieve here. And then the amount would depend. So if the type is credit, then we just use the number amount. Otherwise, we are going to just negate this, and we can say number amount, right? And that's pretty much it. So we are converting this into a negative number. If it's credit, it is supposed to be a positive transaction. If it's debit, then it's supposed to be a negative transaction. And those are the only transactions that we have. So if I save this right now, we can check what the amount becomes at the end. So if I go back here, you're going to see that if I do a debit transaction, let's say we add 200 to Apple Pay. So we can say something like salary, which is $200, pretty low, I would say. So it's now 2,200. But if I go ahead and say, for example, groceries, or I could just say expenses, but I make this a credit transaction. And if I say 200 here, then it should become 2000 again. So if I go ahead, it doesn't do this, which means that we have a bug or something else. So we are going to debug now. Before that, I'm going to answer Saira. Excuse me, sir, I have some questions about JS. Can I contact you through Facebook or any other source? Saira, you can always contact me on Facebook or LinkedIn. So I reply usually within 24 hours. So you can definitely go ahead and do that. Alrighty. I'm going to block this guy and reload. Awesome. So now that we have this, let's see what's going wrong with this. We're going to go and do debugging. Super cool. So I'm going to remove the mobile view from here, kind of concise this one. And now let's see what happens. So I'm going to refresh. I'm going to remove all my breakpoints from here. And now let's see. So in this case, let's add a credit transaction. Oh, did I do it right actually? When I do credit, it should add to my, but when I do debit, it should have removed it, which it did not. So let's see debit actually. So I'm going to say test 1, 2, 3, and let's say we are deducting 500, which means this should become 1500. So how do we do it? Let's go and see submit. So this is where it all starts from. So I'm going to put a breakpoint here. I hope all of you can see it, but if you think the screen is too small, just let me know. I'm going to actually zoom in anyways. So you should be able to see it a bit better now. So what's happening right now? So if I go to submit, you can see that this is where everything starts. So if I hit add, it comes inside this function with this event. Then what we do is that we find the event.target, which is the form, because we submitted the form. Then we take out the elements out of it. So if we look at the elements, you can see that it has all these properties: amount, category, title, type. All of these things are actually pointing to the exact DOM element, which is the input, which you see on your screen. So in here, you can see that the amount is this input that you see. Then you got category, which is the select box, title, which is the input, and then type, which is also a select box. So if I go ahead and take out all the values, then the title is test123, amount is 500, category is restaurants and cafe, and the type is debit in this case. Now I'm going to, as I mentioned, we are passing the type within the create transaction function. So the create transaction function goes ahead inside Can I please click here? And now if I go, you can see that this now creates a transaction using new transaction. So we are creating a new instance of the transaction using the transaction class. When in JavaScript or in any other language you create a new instance, it actually calls the constructor function of the class. So if I go ahead, you will notice that now it's calling the constructor with all the variables that we have passed. So now we got category, title, date, amount, and type. Why do we see category like this? Oh, we get the category object. We are good. So the type is debit here. So now it's going to go ahead, and in this case, you will see that when we do amount, I believe the number maybe just converts it into. So the type here is debit, which means that this should be a negative value. Actually, I see the negative value, but then when we have the logic of updating the amount, this is what is called afterwards. So let me see when we go ahead. So in this case, we're going to come out. So the value of the new transaction is correct. The amount here is minus 500. But then why doesn't it add it correctly? So we are going to see that. So first of all, in the get HTML, when we get the HTML generated, you see that the amount here is minus 500, as you can see here. I hope you're able to see it, but if you cannot see the screen or the code, just let me know in the chat and I'll update it. So in here, you can see that we got minus 500, which should be shown in the HTML here. Then we append the child, and there you go. We see minus 500 because this was a debit transaction. Now, what happens afterwards? So it goes out, it resets the form, and we have written this logic. So it resets the entire form, as you can see. Then it sets the category to the existing category that we selected, which is fine. And now it's updating the wallet. This is the logic, or this is the place where we should be looking at the logic. Now here is the problem. You can see the amount that we are passing here is not the amount that is of the transaction. And that is a big problem, right? Because it's still using the amount from the input, which was 500, but it's not using the transactions amount. So we need to update the code. So the flow looks like this. We submit the form, it comes into this code, then it goes inside this create transaction function. So it goes away to the create transaction function. It creates a new transaction, does all the magic, and then we don't get the new transaction anywhere else. So we don't have access to the correct created transaction back into this context. We don't have the access to it. So what we can do here, we can essentially just return this newly created transaction from this function, so we can get it back here and then use the correct amount from there. So that's what we are going to do. So I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to go back to the code. And in here, once we have created the transaction using the create transaction method, which is here, we would expect this function to return back the transaction. So we can say transaction equals this.create transaction. And then instead of this amount that we are using from the HTML, we are going to use transaction.amount. So we can say amount is going to be transaction.amount. And that's pretty much it. So now that we have done this, we can go ahead and create transaction and make sure that this is returned. So I can go ahead and say return new transaction. Okay. Now let's try this. So if I refresh now, go ahead and say something like test 1, 2, 3, 500, and then hit add. It comes here, goes ahead. I'm going to quickly go through this, and then it's going to go into create transaction. It's going to do all the magic as it's supposed to do. And finally, once it's done, it's going to give us the HTML, which is minus 500. It's going to append the list item here. And now we are returning the transaction with the correct amount, as you can see, because this is created via this. And then the new transaction itself goes into the transaction class and sets the amount as we saw earlier. So it goes ahead in here and sets the amount correctly. And once this is done, it moves forward and then returns back the new transaction, just like this. And now we have this in our new variable called transaction, and we have the minus 500 here. So instead of using the amount, which was like 500 as a string, we can use transaction.amount, which is the new variable as we discussed. So now it's going to go ahead, It's going to go forward. It's going to reset the form, set the category, and now it's going inside the wallet. And in here, it's passing the amount, and the amount that we are passing is minus 500. So it's going to get the amount and it's going to just add it. So once you add minus 500 to 2000, you actually get back 1500. That is what we actually wanted. So if I play this now, you can see that the wallet, we have updates correctly without issues. So let's try this once again, but now with credit. So let's say we also got a salary in this case, and the salary was 500, and this is not debit but credit, which means that we are adding this to our wallet. So salary came in our account, which means that our account wallet should update or should increase, or the amount should increase. So if I do credit, you can see that this became 2000. The value is positive here. And if I do another groceries transaction in this case and go to clothes and shopping, but make it debit, and if I do, for example, 3000, then this should become minus 1000, as you can see. So our logic is working perfectly fine in both of these cases. As we have implemented before, we can actually select the wallets, and this code is also in our JavaScript. So you can see that these are highlighted as well. But essentially, if I wanted to change my wallet, now I could say something like, hey, I want more shopping. So I could say clothes, for example, and I could go ahead and say, hey, I spent like $600 on clothes, for example, and this was debit. So it's going to decrease it. So if I hit add here, you can see that it says 4400 now instead of 5000. So there you go. Our logic for the transactions is working brilliantly fine. What I do want to do is instead of doing add, I'm just going to say create, because I think that makes much more sense than add. So I'm going to rename this button to create. And now if I see, you can see the create button here. So we've got the transactions. We can see actually those transactions as well. But the only problem that I have right now is that they're not saved anywhere. So would you be interested to save these transactions on the browser so we don't lose them? And if yes, then do you think we should be using local storage, or do you think we should go with IndexedDB? What do you prefer? Type in the chat and let me know. So the question again is, do we use local storage or do we use IndexedDB to store these transactions? And both of these would actually be on the browser. So they are both going to be local. When I say this, let me actually show you what I mean. So in your application, you have multiple ways of storing data. One is you add cookies. Second, you have local storage in which you can add key values. And third is you have IndexedDB in which you can also add stuff. So local storage has some limit. I believe it's 5 MB or something, and it's really slow as well. But another way of using it or using a storage in the browser is the IndexedDB. So if you're already familiar with local storage, you may just want to use IndexedDB. Otherwise, we could go with local storage. So it's up to you. What do you decide? And I'm going to also bring up the JavaScript IndexedDB example. Wessel, when did you visit Warsaw? Oh my God, why did you not let me know? I'm sorry, I didn't. Yeah, it was too fast. So I was in Firebase Summit in New York the week before. And then, yeah, a friend, Santosh, told me that there's going to be this this conference in Poland. I didn't really know. And then, yeah, then one thing led to another, and then I went to there. You live in Warsaw. Damn, I could have met you. I was there with my family, with my wife and my kid. We could have gone to a coffee. I also tried, now I don't really remember any names of all the things that I've tried there. But yes, I've tried a couple of teas there. And they were really good. Some of them were orange and raspberry. I don't recall the name, but I hope I have a picture of them. So I'm gonna show you on the Instagram then. But yeah, it would have been fun. Maybe next time. From the pictures of view, it was quite visible on your background, which is culture place. Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. Okay, so how about we use IndexDB for this? I live like there 10 minutes to there. Awesome. We also had we also live around that. So if I go to Boski something something 9 Warsaw. Damn, the names are so weird there. What is it called? So let's see, Synchron Warsaw. Ah, yes. So this is my office in there. Ulika Giboska. I don't know what that is. I found Polish very hard to understand, but I know this. You live in remotely. I do work remotely so far, but I'm changing jobs. So it's gonna be full time on office. But so far I work remotely. But I mean my office there is a branch of Synchron, but I do have the headquarters here in Sweden. So I often go, or not often, but sometimes go to office here in Stockholm. But this is where the office was, and we lived, I believe. Can I find it? Synchron, blah blah blah. Hmm. So this is Starbucks. Hmm. And then I believe it should have been some place here. Why can't I find it? Let me actually see. It should be on my mobile history. Map, history, more from recent history. Yes. Boska. So it's GR. Where did you go? Yeah, GRZY Boska 9. Exactly. That's where I lived. Yes. So that's where I lived for the 3 days that I was there. And it's really close. And it was really close to the centrum. So that was really nice. And the NGConf happened at Zlote Tarase, if I'm pronouncing it right. That's around the centrum. And it was really close. So this is where I could also see the direction actually from Synchron, Warsaw. It's like really next to it. Yeah, exactly there. Now I understand where it is. So there is the office, there it is, and somewhere here should be Centrum. Yeah, there you go. For sure. For sure. I'll let you know. 100%. 100%. Most likely, I mean, I do plan to visit next year as a speaker to the conference, but if there are going to be any other conferences, I would definitely look into it. It's not too far. It's nice that it's not too far. It's like 1.5 hour flights. And then maybe I would learn more Polish. Awesome. So yeah, let's have a look into the IndexDB and how we can use it. Creating or updated version of the database, we don't really need that. Let's see. Let's see. Using a key generator. Let's see. If it's gonna be too complex, then I'm going to just not use it. Mm-hmm. I'm Turkish, but I live in here for 10 years. Awesome. You could have actually then, yeah, you could have then introduced me to some halal foods or halal restaurants there. That would have been super cool. Do you also live in Warsaw, Eva? Or are you close by? Yeah, I tried some, it was Fenici. And then there's also a restaurant called Not So Far from Damascus, but in Polish, however you say it. It was recommended by a friend. It was vegan, but it was nice. And then also there was one restaurant that I really liked. It was Vegan Bistro, I think. So yeah, local vegan bistro. Oh, this was amazing. It was too good. And I had, what did I have? I had this one. And I also had the hash browns. Can I see the hash browns, please? They're super nice. Nope, nope, nope. But if you have not tried it, do. Yeah, she's writing from YouTube. It's funny how technology can connect even among different platforms. Yes. But this was a really nice place, and I actually really liked the food. I bet my friend Yatik would feel really nice knowing this. Excalibero77, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome, welcome. Why do I think that you actually followed me before? Did you unfollow? And then did you come back? What happened? Pera restaurant, which is Turkish. Aha. I would try it actually. We also went to this. I think it was called something Asjad or something. That also was nice. Green Cafe, Starbucks. I'm my whole history. Asado Art House. Yeah, this one. This was also really nice. Uh, we had we didn't have this plate, the meze special, but we did have something interesting. We did have a wrap that was really nice, and also there was yeah, I had this one. So super nice. Check Pera. Okay, okay. Let me check it. Pera Warsaw. Oh, is it steakhouse? Damn, that would be awesome. And how? There's also a Lahore restaurant. Come on, I didn't even know that. Indiska Pakistanska. Okay, this would have been really nice. Can I see the menu? Oh, it's on Facebook. Of course, it's not. Why is it not available? That's interesting. Is it because I have not switched to it, or let's see. Nope. Looks expensive. Um, it really depends from which currency we are talking about, but yeah, I mean the by the look of it, the restaurant, it seems expensive. But yeah, I mean you can have it. You don't have to have it every day. You can have it once. Ooh, this looks good. Maho. Can I convert this to English? Yes. The best one. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, amazing things don't go for cheap, you know. So it's okay. So hummus, saladki, peresteki. Peresteki is something I would go for. It's 350 grams for 179. This one is not so expensive. At least this one. Even this one, I think it's okay. Beef tenderloin, fillet, not really. Should be English one as well. Oh yeah, here you go. Ah, there you go. Spaghetti pepe, ribeye, entrecote. Entrecote is something that is very, I think it's very Turkish, as far as I've seen, because I've seen that on Istanbul kebab places in Sweden. Tenderloins. I'm already feeling hungry, and I don't know what my wife is doing right now, but I could say, hey, make some food for me. You're from Ankara. Oh, I think I have visited it once only. I went to an event called GDG Ankara, which was the Google Developers Expert event. We lived in Istanbul for 3 years. Nice. What does OOP mean in OOP budget app? Really good question. Basically, OOP means object oriented programming, which means that when you program your code, you see everything as an object. And then object comes out of a class. For example, you have a human class, and then you have like all these humans on the road who are walking. So yeah, it's an object oriented programming per se. And my camera died, so I'm going to quickly replace it, which also tells me that it's about 1 hour of a stream, and that also means that we should be ending in about half an hour, so I don't lose track. Look at that, Ryan is spreading knowledge like a pro. It's not OOP, it's O dot OOP. Okay. Cyrus says great, thank you. Wessel, how did you come to this conclusion that Eva is an English teacher? Are you stalking, bro? Because she's using all the comma or etc. Ah, interesting. My English is quite good. Yeah, people also say that my English is quite good as well. It's making me hungry. Yes. Yeah, now I'm hungry too. All right, should we get back to coding then? Not looking at like all these cool, all these nice steaks. Alhamdulillah. Yes. But I mean, if you want, you could share what is your absolute favorite dish. And it could be anything actually. It could be, or especially if you have something that is really local. I mean, things that your mom would have created or would have made for you. I think those are the best. And I could then share as well. Let me know for the next time. I can pick you up there, bro. For sure, Vasil. Absolutely, absolutely. Now I remember, or now I know who to call when I have to pee in Warsaw. Absolutely. All right. So I think to keep things simple, let's go with local storage so we don't end up losing our transactions. Ryan says mine is Juji kebab. Ryan, are you also from Turkey? Or is it Persian actually? The Juji kebab, or is it Turkish? So we're going to create a storage class so we can access it later on. So I'm going to remove this guy and remove this as well. And now let's create a storage class so we can store transaction. So let's see. So we're going to say class, or actually we don't really need, but we could say, okay, transaction storage, and this is going to have get transactions or actually, do we need get? Or we could say get set, and we could say update, and I think that should be it. So in this case, we could have done something like this. So when we get it, we could return, and this should say transactions storage. So we return a JSON dot parse either a local storage dot get item transactions, or we parse this, right? Yeah. Juja is not Turkish name. It's Persian. I'm Iranian. Yes, look at that. I think I know stuff in that case. My gym trainer is actually from Iran, and I think I've been to a couple of Persian restaurants in Stockholm. Once Khera, show the output once, please. For sure, I'm gonna show you output in just a second. I'm gonna just put some code in here. So let's see, set, and then the set should have a transactions. So so consider it like this. So we would what we're doing here is that we are making a storage in which we could add stuff. So you would have a storage, and then we have a set. So set basically would go ahead in the local storage, and it would set the transactions. So transactions. Okay, and then when you get, you would also get the transaction in that case. The update would actually update all the transactions in that case, which is quite equal to the set. So I don't really think we need update. So we should just be working with get or set. But for easier syntax, we could still say update in that case. And then we should also have delete. So how about we create helper functions in this case, and then we go with that. So when we do, when we talk about transactions, or we could say something like transaction service, right? And then this should like say something like get all. So we get all of them. Then we could also say set all, and then there should be a transactions in this case, and then what would you would do is you would set to that, and the transactions by default could be like empty array. So in this case we could say something like, and we don't need to return anything, so we are going to say set items, and then transactions, and then we also need to provide the transactions in this case that we are going to set, and we're going to debug it in just a bit. Now it's really not cool to hard code strings multiple times in your code in JavaScript, and we would like to avoid it. Especially the senior engineers, they always avoid it. So instead of having that, we could have a property here. We could say something like this dot, or not this dot, but we could say local storage key, and then we set it once. So now instead of this, I could just say this dot local storage key here, and then here as well. So we are not repeating this string every now and then. So I can change it here, and then it would be updated everywhere. So get all, set all makes sense. When we update a transaction, we are going to find it, and then we are going to update it. But let's not talk about that at the moment. And we can also say delete transaction. So we could rather say update one and delete one rather, right? And then we would also say delete all. The delete all is simple. We would just go ahead and say local storage dot delete, or is it remove item? It's remove item, and then this dot local storage key, and that's pretty much it. Okay. All right. So now that we have this, what we are going to do is we are going to just hard code something into the code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and say something like window dot st or transaction storage equals new transaction service. Should we call it transaction storage then? Let's call it transaction storage. I think it makes more sense. So let's try this out and see what it looks like. So Shri, hey, how are you, Shri? How's it going? And Vansh, here you go. So this is the output right now, and without the storing the local storage. So what we are building here is that we have some transactions. We can select a wallet, and then we can create a transaction like test 123. If it's a debit transaction, then it is basically deducted from your wallet. But if it's a credit, then obviously it's added. So if I say something like 500, then this 5,000 would essentially become 4,500, and we get the transaction created in the UI. This is all pure JavaScript, no React, no Angular, core JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. And we are using object-oriented programming in this one. So if I do something like a credit on this one, for example, if I decide that, hey, this is going to be test 1 to 3, and there's a 4,000 credit that comes into the wallet, then this one becomes 8,500, as you can see. Now what I want to do is to show you how to store things in local storage. So in here, I've already set this variable called window.transaction_storage. So I should be able to access it here. So I could either say window.transaction_storage, as you can see here, which is a class or which is an instance of the transaction storage, which has this local storage key named transaction, but it also has all these cool functions: delete all, delete one, get all, set all. So if I run here the transaction storage, and I can call it either window transaction storage or transaction storage. JavaScript basically provides us both options. So if I do get all, you would see that it returns an empty array, right? How does it really work? So if I go back to my sources and go to main.js and go to transaction storage and go to actually the first, oh, it's transactions. Okay. I should actually then make it singular. So I'm going to rename this to transaction storage, let's say, save it and refresh it and play it. And now what I want to do is I want to do transaction storage, which is here, here, and here. So I'm going to put a breakpoint here. Now, whenever I try to run in the console get all, you can see that this function is triggered. It tries to do local storage.get item and then this .local storage key. If I kind of copy this here and then go and try here, you will see that this returns null. Why does it return null? Because if I go to application and go to local storage here, there is nothing here. That's why it returns null. And once it returns null, our code actually checks if it should parse it or not. Since this is going to be null, it would rather go into the next condition, which is this. Why would you not go that? Which is this or, and then it would pick this instead. So if this is null, then you pick this and then you parse it. So once it parses this, if you do json.parse this string, then you actually get an empty array. This is what we actually saw. So when we do transaction storage.get all, it returns us this, which is an empty array. Easy peasy. So I hope you got the point here now. Now let's try to set something. So if I wanted to set something just like this, transaction storage.set all, and here I'm going to just add a random string here. So I'm going to say something like an array of A and then B. So if I do this, it goes inside this function with the transactions, which is an array of 2 items, A and B. And then it sets the item using local storage.set items, and then it sets the transaction. So if I hit play here, before hitting play, you can see that application doesn't have anything in the local storage. If I hit play now, you are going to see now we got transactions, which has A and B as the values here. And the fun part is if I wanted to click this, do I, actually, yeah, it shows it like this. So we got an array of A and B. That's good. Now, if I go ahead and get all, what would happen? It would come inside here, and then it would now see local storage.get item. So let's see if I do local storage.get item, what happens? You can see that it returns back A and B. Now, if I go ahead and parse it, it would fail. And that is because we have done something stupid. How, and what is the issue? In the application, you can see that this is actually converting the array into a string value of A and B, which is not what we really want. So when we are setting the transaction storage value, we don't have to set the transaction like this. We would have to first convert this into a string. So we need to do json.stringify, not that, stringify transactions, so it stores as an array. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and show you again what it was like before. So we saved it like a string. We should not do that, but rather we should have saved this like an array, but stringified. So if I set this like this, it goes ahead and now it's converting, it's doing a json.stringify to transaction. So if I go ahead and show you this, it basically converts this array into a string of array. The transaction itself is an array, but it converts this into an array string or a string of an array, whatever you want to call it. So if I go ahead and play this, you're going to look at the application now. And now you can see that if I click transaction, I actually see an array, which is good. Or some people call it array. Now, if I try to do get all, I actually get an array of A and B. There you go. So now our solution is working good. All we need to do is, instead of doing this magic, we integrate our code base. So I'm going to remove this line, transaction storage, and I'm going to go ahead and create an instance of this storage inside our app. So notice this, everything that is related to data, we have this inside budget app, and everything that is related to DOM manipulation or UI updates, like checking that input, putting this input here and there, all of that is always inside the budget app UI. So we are not keeping any data inside here, but we are doing all the DOM operations in this budget app UI, which is really good because I could now create multiple budget apps within the same application because I have a class and I can create instances of it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a storage property and I'm going to say new transaction storage. And there you go. We have got a transaction storage instance, and now I can call all the methods that we just discussed. So now that we have this storage created, what do? Whenever we create a transaction, we need to update the storage with the latest state of our transactions. So we are going to look at when does that happen. So if I go to my budget app UI, whenever we submit the form, which is this one, we essentially create a new transaction. So this is the create transaction method that happens. Then we update the wallet, and that's pretty much it. So in here, after I've updated the wallet and created the transaction, I would add or update the storage. So I'm going to go ahead here and say this dot app, because this is the budget app UI. So when I say this, I mean the budget app UI. The budget app UI has an instance of the app here, of the budget app. So if we have a look at the hierarchy of this, I'm not sure if I've shown this before, but essentially this is what happens. So we have essentially the budget, forgive my writing, we have the budget app UI class, and this class essentially has an instance of the budget app. This budget app actually has an instance of multiple things. It has an instance of wallet. It also has an instance of storage. So this is what's happening. And if we have a look at this, you will see it here. So budget app UI has the app, which has an instance of the budget app class. So the budget app class, like all of this, is inside here, the app, as you can see. Then the budget app itself has the storage and wallet. How can we see that? The budget app has a wallet property, which is the wallet that we set. Then we also have the storage, which is the transaction storage, and you can see that it has the instance. So if I'm in my budget app UI code and I'm doing some magic there with the create transaction, in order to get from my budget app UI to this storage, I need to do my budget app UI dot budget app dot storage. In other form, we say this, which is the budget app UI dot the app stance. Messi or Ronaldo? Messi. So this dot app dot storage, as you can see, dot And now I can set everything. So I could go ahead and now see this, and I could go ahead and say set all. And now here I can set all the transactions. Now this is a really interesting moment. Why? Because right now we don't really store the transactions anywhere at all. You will see that we have wallets, we have categories, but we don't really have transactions. I don't think we use them anywhere. Or maybe we do. Let's see. So when we create a transaction, we don't really add them anywhere, I believe. So let's see. Transaction storage, transaction list element. No, we don't do that. So I'm going to clear this UI. And now let's see. So once we go ahead and do this, we create a transaction. We add that to the transactions list. So we do this dot app dot transactions dot push, and then we add the transaction to that. That's the first thing, that we keep that into our data. Hello, Jose Capivro Yosia Superman. Hey, Superman. I think that's actually much easier. Superman. I'll watch it later, save it for sure. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to update the transactions right here. And then I can actually pass all of these transactions to the storage. So I can say set all this app.transaction, and that should be good. Now let me show you how this works. So I'm going to go ahead and debug it now for you. So I'm going to say set all. And here is what's happening. So I'm going to click here, add a new transaction of, let's say, testing. We say 5 or 400, and we are crediting it to the Apple Pay. So this should be 2400 now. So if I hit create here, go ahead, you will see that everything is rendered now. So it's going to now render the wallet and update it. So it's 2400 now. And now it's going to go ahead and do the transaction. So right now the transactions in our app is empty, but we need to sync it with what we see here. So we are going to create this new transaction and push it into transaction. So as we do that, now our transactions array has a transactions. Easy peasy. Now what I want to do is I want to also store this into the storage. So if I go to my application right now, the transactions are called AB, but when I set all with the transactions, it goes inside the set all function, and then it sets the item for the local storage key with these transactions. So this array. So if I play this now, see the applications, now you see we got this transaction, and now we have saved this into local storage. Yay, awesome. Now that we have done this, we can actually go ahead and get it. Because the problem right now is if I refresh, I would still have this in my local storage, but I will not have in my app. If I refresh, poof, everything is going to be gone. So if I show you, you can see that there's nothing in the storage. We don't have this set to 2400 because we didn't save the wallet. And we also don't have the transactions. So we have two problems here. But let's fix the first problem. So what should happen when we refresh our app? We should get the transactions from the storage and set it on the view. That's what we should do because we already have these transactions in our storage. So we should get them and make them render. So how do we do that? Let's look at the budget app UI. So we are going to go ahead and going to create a new function, and we are going to call this.render transactions from storage. And then we are going to render them. So what would happen in this case? We are going to create a function. This is going to get all the transactions. So we can say const transactions equals this dot app dot storage dot get all, and then we right now just log them just to make sure that we can get them in the beginning. So what happens is we call the budget app UI init method. It calls this function. This function goes to the storage and gets all the transactions, and we log them. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh this, and you will see that we should get the log, especially if we are doing init, and it doesn't, which is interesting. So if I refresh this, it goes to app init, it goes in here, goes here, and then it goes into storage, and then it does this. So we get all the transactions and then it should have logged this. And I don't see it. Why don't I see it? Morning info. Oh, there you go. So I should have rather say no verbose or all. So here we have the transactions as you can see. Now that we've got the transaction, we should render it on the UI. How do we render it? Let's have a look at what we do when we create a transaction. So when we submit a transaction, it goes ahead, it creates the transaction, and then it goes ahead and then it does this. So the create transaction requires a title, amount, and category. This is what we do with each transaction. So all we need to do is to create this function. So we create a transaction, it renders it, and then it returns it back. The only thing that I'm concerned about is the ID, but now this is a fun part because we don't want to create a new instance of the transaction, right? What we do want, or actually we do want to do it. So we would have to create a new transaction and then add it. Okay. All right, so let's do that. So what I'm going to do is in my main.js, I'm going to check from storage method. And in here, the transactions from storage, we're going to create a transaction for all of that. So what we do is we do this. We run a loop on all of these, or we could just simply do transactions from storage dot for each. So we run a for each loop. We run it for each transaction. Then we do this dot create transaction, and then we pass in everything. So we pass in the transaction in here. So it creates the transaction, and then we basically should get const transaction instance equals this dot create transaction, and then we just do this dot app dot transactions dot push, and then we do transactions from or transaction instance per se. So let's see what this does. So I'm gonna quickly go and refresh. Now it goes to app init. It goes to this function. Then it gets all the transactions from storage. Then it runs the loop over those transactions. So the first time we're going to get the first transactions in here. And now you would notice that the first transaction is here. We are creating a transaction out of it. So we go ahead into creating it. It goes ahead, creates the new instance of it, gets the HTML, appends it to the UI as you can see right here, and then returns a new transaction, and then it pushes into the array as well, so we have a good track of it. There you go. So now whenever I refresh, I would still see my transactions. Super cool. The only thing that I don't see really is the icon of the category, and that is a bit interesting for me. Why don't we get a transaction icon? Let's see. So when we create a transaction for each, or when we do a create transaction, what happens really? And here it is going to expect that the category that we are providing should have, okay, I got you. So when we do create transaction, just like here, it expects that the transaction category that we are supposed to provide should just be this value and not everything in here. So that's what we are missing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just say everything that the transaction has, but the category should be transaction dot category dot value. So let's try this now. So it's going to come here, and now we are providing the category as just this value. So it goes inside and finds the category itself, just like this. And then it should also show the icon. There we go. So now we also see the icons, the price, the property, and everything that you would want in this transaction. SASD, is this app development? Yes, it is. So now that we have got the transaction as well, let's also make sure that our wallet is also stored. And I was also thinking about one thing particularly um, about this. So we create the transaction and then we render it, which is a bit troubling for me because because the get HTML is Hello Lasif, how are you? How icons are rendering with names? Diniyat, really good question. So we are using something called font icons, and this is how it works. So when you create a transaction, you go there, and there. So we have a category value restaurants and cafe, right? This is the category. So when you go inside there and you create a transaction, it finds that and it goes inside. And then it takes the category out, and the category itself has these icon classes. So if I show you in the code, we have categories. Well, it was actually right there and I moved away from it. So each category that we have has a value, has a title label that you see on your screen or in the app when you're choosing those, like restaurants and cafe. We have a value and we have an icon class attached with that, and this is a font awesome icon class. So in the end, when a transaction is rendered, we do this get HTML, and then we basically apply those icon classes to the I element. So it is going to be FA, blah, 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 and it comes from the category itself. So I hope that makes sense. So then the icon basically is class is applied, and then it automatically renders the icon for this one. And there you could see it. FA solid, FA utensils. Awesome. So last time, maybe not now, but we'll probably check it out in the next stream. So now that we have this, let's talk about how do we make sure that our wallet is up to date. So obviously this record right now is weird because it doesn't reflect the icon right now, or it doesn't reflect the wallet. But essentially what we would want to do is also to save our wallet. So in the storage that we have, we do have set all, update one, delete all. So in this case, we could go ahead, and also I would also prefix this with the app name. So we could say like budget app transactions, and then also we are going to create a new one. We're going to create a new class. We are going to call this wallet storage, and then we could say wallet. And actually wallets is what we are going to call them. And then it's going to be local storage key, get all, exactly the same code, set all, exactly the same code, and then update one, delete all. Now this is the beauty of it. What we could do is, instead of having all of this, we could actually use OOP, and we could use something called inheritance. What inheritance basically does is that I could create one class and then I can extend it so every other class has all the methods that they require. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this once again, but trust me, it's going to get shorter. So I'm going to call this storage in this case. And I'm going to call this app storage because I think maybe there is another class called storage globally. Storage. Yeah, there's a native class called storage. I'm not going to use it. So I'm going to call it app storage. So I'm going to just say transaction storage extends app storage, and then I can remove all of this code from here. Similarly, I'm going to create wallet storage, and I can remove all of the code from here by just calling the extends app storage, which means that I would have every function that the app storage has, like delete one, update one, delete all. And the only differences between those is actually the local storage key, because the rest of that is exactly the same, right? So in this case, I think we are good. So we have local storage key, budget app transaction, local storage key, budget app wallets, and that's pretty much it. So for the wallet storage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create that within the budget app. So I'm going to rename this to transaction storage, and I'm going to rename this, but we have to use super keyword for inheritance class. No, we don't. The super keyword is only supposed to be used if you have a constructor function here. So if you don't have a constructor function, then you don't need to call super, because if this constructor is called and it extends a class, then the original class or the base class constructor should also be called. That's why we call super. But if we don't have a constructor, we don't really need to call it. I hope that makes sense. So we got our storage, which is, where's my code? Budget app. Yeah, there's my code. So we got transaction storage. We can also say wallet storage equals new wallet storage, right? And I could also call this wallet storage rather. And now what I want to do is whenever we have a change in the wallet, we basically save it to the wallet, or we save the wallets into the store. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is whenever we have submitted, whenever we submit a form, we create a transaction, we do all this magic, and then we also update the wallet. So right after updating the wallet, I'm going to say this .app.wallet storage set all, and then we should just say this .app.wallets, and this should save this into the store. Now, one important thing here is that I can see that the set all method calls it transactions, rather we should say items, and rename this as items as well. So we are not using transactions in the app storage because we save anything. Is this part 4 of the budget app series? I believe so, yes. So now that we have this storage set here, we could go ahead and set the wallets. I just want to make sure that when we do this update, we update the wallet itself, which is also referenced here. So I think it should be good, but let's try it out. So I'm going to clear the storage now. Clear the storage, refresh the app, easy peasy. And then we go ahead and check this out. So I'm going to I'm going to remove all the breakpoints, and I can say wallet, storage, this, and here we are. So once we have created a transaction, let's say groceries, and this was a debit transaction, we had 300, and then this is going away from Apple Pay. So if I create this, then it should add it. So it updates the wallet, as you can see. Then the wallet itself is now 1700, which is good. We should also look at the wallets array. The wallets array doesn't contain anything, and this is troubling because it should have these two wallets, which means that we have a bug in the code. So now what we want to do is when we init this, when we start with the main function, we have some wallets, we pass them to the wallets budget app UI, we set them to the wallets array, but then we don't set them in the app. So we should pass budget app, primary wallet, and also wallets. And I think since these are two, we can pass them like objects. So I'm updating my budget app constructor to receive these two things: budget app, primary wallet, and wallets. And then we also should have this dot wallets equals to wallets. Now this should be good. So I'm going to now refresh this, create a transaction, groceries, make it 500, create this, and now you will see that we got this .app.wallet, which is updated now. And then the app wallets have the Google Pay and Apple Pay. This should also be updated now, as you can see. And now if I move forward, I'm setting all of this to the storage. So I'm going to go ahead and see the application. Nothing here so far, but if I move forward in my sources to the next line, I should now be able to see in my local storage the budget app wallets. There you go. So we got Google Pay 5,000, Apple Pay 1,500. Super cool. And now I'm going to go ahead and save the transactions as well. So we update the transaction storage, and now our application has two things: the transactions, all of the transactions, and the wallet, all of the wallets. And now what we need to do is when the app loads, we need to set the wallet, because right now they're hard coded. So I'm going to refresh now, and you can see that the Apple Pay is still the same, although we got the transaction. So we are going to now load the wallets. Before that, let me see this message. Should we always debug using a debugger, or console log is fine? Ayaz Ahmed. Ayaz Ahmed, I personally do not consider a developer if they don't really use a debugger. Easy peasy, simple. So you have to use, you have to use debugger. There's no going around it. I don't believe in console log developers at all. So please use debugger as much as possible. All right, I'm gonna also look into changing my headphones battery. Give me 1 second. Ta-da-da. There we go. And now we are good. Let's see if I can, if we are good. So I can hear myself. I don't hear myself. Now I hear myself. Now I hear myself. Let's go. All right, continuing on this. So now that we have this, we should load the wallets in the beginning. What if this project used with React JS framework? Will it ease? Yes, it will be much easier, but then you wouldn't have the concepts of all of the magic that we are doing. So you would be better at React, but you may not be as good in JavaScript in that case. But yeah, you would know React framework in that case. So the frameworks are there to help us with these things. So it is much easier for us to work with. So definitely it would be really easy with React. So now that we have this, let's see how we can load the wallet. So when we talk about the wallet, again, it's going to be the same thing. So as I was showing you in the, did I close my pen? Yeah. So as I was showing you before, we have the budget app UI. This is where the hierarchy starts. So budget app UI, budget app, storage, wallet. That's what we are going for. So when we start with the main function. It goes inside here. It creates the budget app UI, and we call the app init. So when we are initiating our application, that's where we are rendering transaction from storage. So similarly, we should do render wallets from storage, and we already do this dot wallets. So when we are doing this dot wallets, we should rather get the wallets from storage and then render them, right? So in this case, what we are going to do is we are going to see the budget app UI. So right now we are hard coding these wallets like this, but we could either get it from storage or use these hard coded wallets, for example. So instead of doing this, let's fetch them first and then use them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say const wallets equals, and then I can simply say, but actually let's not do that here. So I'm not gonna, So I'm not going to pass the data in this case. So I'm going to remove all of this from here. And I'm going to remove the wallets from here as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to budget app UI, remove the wallets and wallet from here. Remove the wallets and wallet from here. And now I'm going to create those. Samarth Tracha, thank you so much for joining in. Welcome. Welcome to CodeWithAhsan. Highly appreciate it. Where are you coming from though? Highly curious. Were you watching another stream before this, or are you just new here? So we need to pass the wallets inside here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say either get it from a store or not. And now here is an interesting situation that we have. the budget app right now that we have, so what we need to do here is we need to provide wallets to the budget app. But in order to provide wallets to the budget app, we need to do this.app.wallet storage because it's inside the app. So I'm gonna refactor this a bit to see how we can do that. So I'm gonna remove this from here as well. And then we have primary wallet to wallet. So let's see if we can, because I don't really want to have the storage as well. How do we go about this? I saw your stream on YouTube and came here. Thank you. Thank you, Samartha. Samarthra. What are you making? Raj is asking. We are making a transaction based budgeting application. So you can track your budget and see what is on your wallet, etc. It was supposed to look like this, but we are not working on any HTML or CSS. We are just focusing on pure JavaScript until we get all the things done, and then simply just update it at the end. So yeah, that's what we are doing. All right, Sam, sounds good. Good to have you here. So now let's think about it. We do need to create wallets, and for that we need a storage, right? So in that case, would it be, so we could do a couple of things. One thing that we could do is that instead of so we got wallets. Yeah, I think we should actually remove the wallets from this place because we don't really need those. Yes. And then this should be then app.wallets. And then what I really think is this should rather be, So now I understand what should we do. So in this case, we are not passing anything to the budget app. We go inside the budget app. In the constructor, we get the wallets somehow. And then we set the primary wallet as well. So what we are going to do is, for the sake of simplicity for now, we are going to say either get it from the storage or use this hard-coded value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say something like this dot wallets equals, so we either say this dot wallet storage dot get all, and let's make it a let. So we are going to check if wallets dot length from storage is 0, then we can say something like this. So we can say let, or not let, but wallets equals this. Otherwise we use the wallet from storage. Then we are setting the primary wallets, and then we are also setting the primary wallet as wallets 0. Okay, I think this should be good. So I'm going to remove this constructor and let's try this out now. There could be some errors, as you can see, and we are going to fix those. So wallet.set is primary is not a function. Okay, so when we get the wallets from storage, we would have to make sure that they are, or first, we actually have some wallets. And second, that we can use them well. So let's see. So when I set this, let's debug this now. So if I refresh this now, you can see that we get the wallet from storage, which are 2 of the wallets. Now the problem is this is an array of simple objects. These are not instances of wallets. That's what the problem here is. So when we get the wallets, if we have a wallet.length, then we are good. If we don't have the wallets.length, which means that, or actually when we have wallets from storage, we should create instances of wallets. So in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say else. We are going to say wallets equals, we can say wallets.map. So we are going to convert each wallet into an instance of a wallet. And here I can basically go ahead and say wallet. So let's see what happens in this case. So I'm going to refresh now. We get the wallets from the local storage, which is Google Pay, Apple Pay. This block will not execute because we already got wallets. So it's not going to create new wallets, rather it's going to use from the storage. Then it's going to go inside, please go away, inside else. And now we are looping over the wallets, which is a regular object, and converting them into a new wallet, which is going to be a wallet instance. So if I go ahead, now the wallets are actually an array of objects, but they do have this set is primary. I don't know why it's, oh, it actually says here. So it's an instance of wallet here. And they also have the set is primary function. So now we are not going to have that error. So when we set the wallet primary, it's going to go ahead, and then it's going to just go ahead and set the primary value to true. There we go. So now in this case, if I refresh, you can see that we get the wallets from there and we don't get any error, but we set both of them to primary. That is interesting. That is really interesting. Why do we get this? Let's see. So I'm going to refresh now. We go to the wallets, we come here, then we create two instances. Both of them have is primary. Oh, the one of them has is primary true and the second one is false. Kitty Sushi, how are you doing today? I'm good. Thank you. How are you doing today? It's actually really nice weather. And I would love to enjoy it soon. So I'm probably gonna end the stream amid. But how have you been? How has your weekend been? And how is everybody on Twitch, also on YouTube? How are you doing today? God's hand. Hello, bro. Hello. I'm doing all right. Just woke up to do some work. Awesome. I wish you all the best. I admire the people who work on the weekends. It's because we have to. So all the best with the work that you're doing. So this one is false. This one is true. That is primary. Oh, okay. Wait a second. Wait a second. So instead of setting the first one as primary, we should actually set the one that is primary from the storage. So how do we find the one which is primary? So what we are going to do is, or actually we don't really need to do it. If we have something from the storage, it should also be primary by default. But if we are creating new wallets, then we should set it. So now let's go ahead and see. So if we go forward, the wallets already have the is primary set to true for the second one. So if I go forward, you can see the second one is primary. Yay, easy peasy. No need to overcomplicate or over engineer stuff. So now if I set this one to primary, it should work, but it doesn't because it says reading update is getting false. Let's see. So if I click here, I can see that this app.wallet is undefined. Interesting. So when we have the constructor, oh, we don't have a wallet set. But wait a second. Oh, this dot wallet. Ah, okay. I see. By default, when we fetch from, you missed my comment above. All right, let me look at the comment first. Does solving a lot of lead code problems help in strengthening your logic? Also, suggestion at the end of every stream, just take 10 minutes, solve some sort of a problem live so we can see your approach to a certain problem. Okay, so first of all, I think that I'm actually solving problems like throughout the stream, to be honest. So you can actually see throughout the stream how I solve problems. I don't think it's going to be a good idea for the last 10 minutes for me to solve problems because I would have done it like the entire stream and my brain would be like poof. I need some rest. But maybe we could do it like in the beginning of a stream because I would be fresh and then I could start doing it. I would like to keep my last minutes for question and answers, if that makes sense. But then to your question, does it help to solve lead code problems, and does it improve your logic? Yes, but it's not just lead code problems, it's all the things that you could do. For example, what we're doing right now, we're solving problems, we're looking into JavaScript issues, we're looking into some real world applications, some real world challenges that we would get. We are right now working on a situation where we have to get some value from storage and see how that turns out in the end to the UI, because it's what you would do in real applications as well. So to answer your question, solving problems is not really specific to lead code. Lead code has like critical problems that you would find. I think, or I would go as far to say 70% of the software engineers would not even solve the problems, the hard problems or the medium problems of lead code. There, or if especially if you're a front end engineer, you're probably gonna just go ahead and change the color of the buttons and making images big and whatnot. But if you do lead code, then yes, you really improve your logic for those kind of situations or those kind of problems that lead code provides. If you want to be good at front end, then you solve front end problems rather than lead code, because that's what your aim is. So it really depends. Lead code is very specific for very specific sort of goals, and it's mostly for interview preparation and whatnot. So yeah, I hope I answered your question. Godsend says, I'm new to web development and I'm going course. Hey, they taught HTML and CSS and JS and now started JS. That's really good. If you want to practice more, God's hand, you can go to codewithahsan.dev/courses. I'm not sure how, what depth the course that you had to go through or you went through had, but if you go through this one that I created, it's free, of course. You end up basically creating this really nice website, which is mobile responsive. It's also out of the Figma design file. So I'm hoping that what you got is, because usually all the courses are like, hey, this is HTML, this is CSS, these are tags, this is that. What my course had was that you have a Figma design file. You can click this file, you can inspect every element of this file, and then you can essentially go ahead and then try to convert this into a CSS or HTML CSS actually working website. So this is the design that you see here. This is web, this is mobile, and this is the actual implementation. This is not an image, this is actual implementation for web and mobile both, and it's responsive. So you could go and check this out if you're interested in it. I'm going to share this in the chat for everybody who's watching this. Why no TS? Because we are just focusing on JavaScript right now. I want to keep it simple, and TypeScript actually includes like interfaces and everything else that is not really very intuitive or very easy to learn for beginners. I could work with TS all day. I've been working with Angular for 9 years now, out of which I think there were at least 6 years with TypeScript. So I could work with TypeScript, but I would like to keep it simple for this one. Faison, or is it Fason? Is it Fason or Faison? Hi to you too. Olet, hey, how are you, Olet? But oops concept is there in JavaScript. Diniyat, yes, that's what we are discussing right now. It has inheritance. It has, I mean, in TypeScript, you have some sort of polymorphism as well, or you have polymorphism, but it has inheritance, encapsulation, all of the concepts that you can think about. So what we are working with right now is having this object-oriented mindset for all the classes or all the items that we want. Asus, hello. Hey, I have a question, bro. Can I use Firebase instead of MongoDB? Yes, you can. If someone stops you, tell them my name and bring them to me, and then we'll look at what we want to do with that. But no one is going to stop you from using Firebase. I use Firebase all the time. I've used it in multiple applications as well. Are you charging the SQL? What do you mean? I don't understand, Asus. Solving problems is different from building applications. No, it's not really. I mean, if you're building applications, you're going to solve a lot of problems along the way. Because yeah, no one, I mean, it's not going to be like you go to office and then people would say, hey, these are like 5 lead code problem type problems that you need to solve now. So you implement that algorithm, this algorithm. That's not how it works in real life. When you're on a job, you're most likely going to work on a web application or a mobile application or a platform or a cloud solution, whatever that is. So lead code is mostly used for some specific problems and having the optimal solutions for those using specific algorithms. So you basically end up learning a lot of algorithms for certain type of situations. And they're mostly used for interviews per se. They are also used in jobs, but I wouldn't say as much. Okay, sir, we'll sure check them for sure. Sir, while creating a web page, it looks cool in my monitor, but when I share them file to my friend, the web page is collapsing. It could be because it's not really responsive. The images are scattered and the words or sentences misaligning. I'm new to this field. Can you help me, sir? I would suggest you to go to CodeWithAhsan.dev and /Discord, so you can join our Discord channel. We have a lot of cool people there, including myself. And if you join, obviously you would be one of those. And when you join that, you can basically ask this into the programming help channel that we have. And I or someone can then help you out for those. Okay. But yes, definitely share those. I suspect that the reason would be that your site is not responsive. And also, if any one of you is interested in Angular, and anyone who doesn't know who I am or what I do, I'm a software architect who has been in the software industry for about 10 years now. And I am also an author of the Angular Cookbook, which is one of the best books of Angular out there. It has 34 I don't know, 4.4 star ratings. Everybody's loving those. I checked that. I think even like yesterday, no, 28th of October. When was it? When was 28th? Is it today? It was yesterday. So on 28th, there were like 5 copies sold. And I think we have sold more than 2,000 of this one. So definitely check the Angular Cookbook out. I'm going to share in the chat as well. And then we have probably the second edition coming next year sometime. Thanks. Thanks, Talk. No problem. So I've learned HTML, CSS. Now I'm learning React. Give me some advice. Try looking into this this app that we created. Can I see Node's front end? I think that's the one. So we created an application with MERN stack. So I would highly encourage you to look into that. Let me switch to my main channel here. And in the content, there should be a MERN stack app, the MERN stack crash course. So if you're interested in React and you're looking for backend as well, then definitely look into this nice little tutorial. I've heard everybody talking good about this, so I'm hoping that it's good. So as you can see here, we do have something like test, and if I hit outside, refresh, you can see that it still saves my data. So you could try this out, this application out as well. We built this using MongoDB, Express.js, Node.js, and React. So this is super cool, super nice. You could create some new tickets. We could say something like Sachin in the house, and then I could create it, and then it creates it here. And if I refresh this, or if I go ahead and, for example, let's refresh this, or if I open incognito, I can still see those because all of this is stored in the Mongo database live on the cloud. So try this and let me know what you think about it. What is better, custom CSS or Tailwind CSS? I would say Tailwind CSS. Custom CSS is a bit hard to maintain. Tailwind CSS it's a bit easier, and it also has good developer experience. So you can just start typing in VS Code and it would start suggesting you classes, which I think it's really nice. Invitation is not accepting. What? Are you sure? Can someone also try the Discord and see if it doesn't work? If it doesn't work, then I do need to update it. If it doesn't work, let me actually invite you to this. So CWA, invite people. Let's create a new link for now, so you can join. Amar Ahmed, nice to meet you too. Sure, man. Thanks a lot. Did I miss a message? No. Okay, we're good. Bro, I'm really strict. I want to become a Munstack dev, but I don't have experience, so that's I'm at it. I work at a software house, but they really don't have anything going on. What should I do, Zen? Zen, if they don't have anything going on, then it means that you have a lot of time that you can spend learning, and that is what I would recommend. So I would say if you're really getting into Munstack, try out this course, the Munstack crash course that I mentioned. Also, if you want a newer tutorial, which also is with Mern, but it's really nice as well. That is going to be the authentication one, if I can find it. Yeah, so this one is even like on a higher level. So if you're very basic, if you're at a beginner level in JavaScript, then I wouldn't recommend following this one. But if you have like some idea of JavaScript and Node.js, then I would highly recommend using this. Can I see Node? Oh, yeah, this is the app. So someone was asking like, how do I practice or get better at things? So this is how you would do it. When I create tutorials, I create a lot of applications along with that. For example, this application. So I could say Ahsan, password isn't correct. Of course it is. User doesn't exist. Of course it doesn't. Password isn't correct. Damn. Let's see if I can register a new one. I can. So this is an app that I have created with this tutorial, and this is based off, I don't think it's React. It's basically really simple HTML, JavaScript, CSS, but it uses Node.js. It uses cookie authentication. Now that I'm logged in, I can refresh as many times as I want. I would still see my name demo here. I would still see all the state that I am in. And if I log out, then I would see something different. So now I'm on the login page. Even if I try to go back to the home page, it would still redirect me to the login page and I wouldn't be able to do it. So I can now log in again with the password, and you can see that I have, I would say never. And then I can choose my favorite language, which is JavaScript. Yay! And I can mark it as favorite. Awesome! Now I can click refresh or just refresh, and it will still show me my favorite language every time. So this is also using Redis, JavaScript, MongoDB, and other stuff as well. Anyways, how much time did it take to learn Angular? Sachin, currently I'm a React.js developer. Sachin, let me ask you, and this is a question that everybody asks me, do you have a time limit? Are you going to go like out of the country 1 month later? Or do you have to do something in like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months? I don't understand why does everybody keep talking about how much time it takes to learn. For everybody, it's different. If you are a really fast picker, you can do it faster. If you spend more time, you're going to learn faster. For example, you could do it in 1 month. If you are spending too much time creating projects, learning, going through documentations. But if you are doing it like half an hour a day, it could take you maybe 7 months, 8 months. I don't know. It really depends on person to person. So there's no accurate answer to this, and you're talking to right now a programmer, and I want to be accurate, so I don't know how to answer that question. But anyways, I hope we all are on the same page. But if you really want to learn Angular, I would highly encourage getting the Angular cookbook. The short form is you could go to CodeWithAhsan.dev and then /ng book, and that should take you to the Amazon link. If you want, you can actually get it from the Kindle one or the paperback one. It's up to you. But so far, I think it's one of those books which has really good content on a lot of topics. Like if you want to look at the topics, you're going to be very interested. Like component communication, directives, dependency injection. These are all the core concepts, like Angular animations. Then if you want to write end-to-end tests, unit tests, how do you write those? This is something that Stack Overflow is filled with these questions. And then also, how about forms? How about creating progressive web apps with Angular? And also how to optimize the performance. So you're going to look into a lot of examples with this. I think since this covers a wide range of topics, that's why people really like it. Anyways, let's finalize our state, and then we are going to end the stream. So far, we have got one issue, and that was that we are getting this update error. So let's see where we were. And then I'm going to get back to the question, and we are going to end it. So if I click this some other wallet, then what happens is it checks the this.app.wallet, and there's nothing set to it. And we were talking about how do we set the primary wallet when we get it from storage. So let's do it like this. So if we have wallets, then we can also put comments here. So no wallets in storage, creating new wallets. So we set the primary wallet to wallet 0. Else we had wallets from storage, finding the primary and setting as well. It's always good to have comments there. So I could say something like const primary wallet equals wallets.find, and we are going to find the wallet which is primary and then set it to this dot wallet. So we could do something like wallet equals wallet.is primary. So whichever wallet is primary, we are going to say this dot wallet equals primary wallet, and I think we should be good. So if I go to my browser again and refresh now, you're going to see that it goes ahead, finds the wallets from storage, creates new instances of those. There are the wallets that we have. Now it's going to find the primary wallet, and we already know that the primary one was Apple Pay. So in this case, it's going to find the primary wallet as Apple Pay, as you can see, and then it sets this dot wallet to the primary wallet. Now if I click Google Play, it should not break it. So if I click this, you can see that it goes here, and this was the line that was failing. So now we have the app.wallet here, update, so it doesn't show us any errors. So there we go. We have now fixed it, but we got another issue. Why did we get another issue here? Oh, let's see. Oh, because we are using this dot wallets here. Now, you remember that we just changed the wallet's position. So what we are going to do is we are going to go back to see this dot wallets here, change primary wallet. This should be this dot app dot wallets, because we have removed the wallets from this, which is the budget app. So we have removed it from the budget app UI. We rather have them in the app now. Let's see if I'm using this dot wallets anywhere else. I'm using it here, which is still budget app, so we're good. So now if I go back to my app, let's see. And if I go ahead and change, so it goes here, it checks the wallet.update. This is good. It changed the primary wallet to the element, goes ahead, and then it gets the wallets, the new wallet. Now it finds it in the app.wallets. Previously it was this dot wallets. So it wasn't working. Now it works, and we don't have any errors whatsoever. So now our code is working fine. Now let's try this out actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new transaction and then try to see if everything saves into the local storage and we get it back. So I'm going to say, for example, we got salary and we did a credit on this one. So we add it to our wallet, and let's add it to Google Pay. No, not Apple Pay, let's say. And we say 3,500. So we make it equal. So if I hit create now, you can see that this was changed to 5,000. We got 3,500 here as well. And now if I refresh, you can see that we still see 5,000 and 5,000. Super cool. I could now try one thing more. So we can say salary in advance, and then we get it in Apple Pay as well. So we say, for example, 3,500, or let's say 3,000. So we create a credit, and then we create it, and this is 8,000 now. And if I go to my application and local storage and see, you can see that the wallet Apple Pay now has 8,000 in the store. So if I refresh this, I can still see this. Super cool. So our wallets are synchronized. Our wallets are saved to the database. Our transactions are saved to the database. They get back from the database, and we can see those in here in real time. The only thing I would say remaining in this budget application is editing the transactions and deleting the transactions. And that's pretty much it. That's what we have. So now I want you to tell me via our Discord channel, in you can go and post it in the comment room. What other features do you think we should have in this budget app that you would like me to cover in the next streams? and then we are going to just finalize those. And remember that once we are done with all of these streams, we're going to probably create a video on how to actually implement this or how to combine this. So now that we have done that, I'm going to switch to actually just chatting, and then we are going to end the stream really quick. Bro, can you send me the MERN course link again? The link you gave leads to YouTube Studio Play Store. Okay, then that might not be the one. Was it the Redis one then? Let's see. So this one that I have shared just now, and I can see my camera died. The one that I just shared now is the link to the Redis auth. And let me also share the one with MERN stack, and my camera is going to be live in just a second. So MERN stack should be this one. There you go. So we got the MERN stack one, and you should be able to see them where here, there. I gotta get used to this. So yeah, the first one is the Redis auth, the Node Redis auth, and the second one is the MERN stack crash course. So there you go. So we have about 3 more minutes before we call it a day. It has been 2 hours of streaming today, which was pretty intense. I met a lot of cool folks, and I also enjoyed the coding exercise today. And probably I'm gonna rest and see what I can eat, because I feel absolutely hungry now. So are there any questions that we would like to go through? Otherwise, I'm just gonna go ahead and say goodbye after finding someone cool to look into this pirate software. Actually, let's see who we can raid. So I can see Finite is online. And then also we also have Tutor Exilius. I've not seen Tutor Exilius. What do they do? Women tweaking. Is it? It's Dutch. Okay. Finite basically goes in English. We got Lana. We got also Pirate. Oh, so Finite is actually just starting. And for some reason, I don't have audio. Why don't I have audio? Wait a second. All right, I have audio now. Yes, awesome. So let's rate them. And we could do it via our own channel. There we go. There we go. And with that said, everybody, thank you so much for joining in. I hope you enjoyed today's stream. I would love to see you next time. So stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourself and your family. Assalamu alaikum, and I'll see you later. Bye.
It is so cool to see you back here in chat. Welcome on back to the stream.